How Iron Man's death left a lasting impression on Marvel fans by Mauricio Lopez. Watching films, you can feel all types of emotions depending on what the director has in mind. Some films stick out more than others and can leave a lasting impression on the viewer. Marvel is one of the most popular franchises in the world, having countless movies that are favored by many. I'll be going over how Tony Stark's death had a lasting impression on the audience by using modes such as ethos, pathos, and logos, and also other factors including nostalgia, scenery, and music. The scene I will specifically be analyzing that Marvel has produced is a climax of the film Avengers Endgame, released April 26, 2019, where Tony Stark sacrifices his life using the Infinity Stones to stop the antagonist of the film, Thanos, who has been seen several films beforehand. To better understand this scene, it's important to know the modes of persuasion that were used. Let's go into more context of the scene I'm analyzing. Thanos, right now, he has the Infinity Stones and he's currently fighting in possession with Iron Man, who seems to be unsuccessful. That's when he says his iconic line, "I am inevitable," before snapping his fingers. In the dramatic twist, we find out that Iron Man is the one who has the Infinity Stones, in response to Thanos' line, saying, "I am Iron Man," snapping his fingers, and everything goes white. Out of all the modes of persuasion, pathos is used the most in the scene involving emotion to the audience, specifically anticipation. You've been waiting so long to see how the story unfolds, and now it is right before your very eyes. Ethos can be seen when Stark says his last words before snapping his fingers, as he's a character we trust since we've seen him beforehand. There is little to no dialogue for the next several minutes, leaving the audience speechless as well, wondering what will happen to Stark. With all the previous films leading up to Iron Man sacrificing himself, there's pride in the audience that out of all the characters to defeat Thanos, that is Stark's main mission. A remark made by Peterson during the Avengers 2012 film, Rogers remarks that Stark would never be self-sacrificial type. Stark did just that. The ultimate sacrifice for the greater good as the climax of Endgame. Watching this unfold, I was proud of the character development Stark has developed, and yet it was a bittersweet moment. Pathos is used heavily throughout the scene. Even with no dialogue, the scene can be seen strategically. This scene, though, the silence alone can be used to reflect how long we've known Iron Man for, and how his chapter's finally coming to an end. We grew up watching him since 2008, and seeing the heroes for over 10 years, the audience will build an attachment to these characters, which is rare compared to other franchises. Nostalgia is a powerful tool that is greatly associated with the feeling of reminiscing. You grow up with these heroes, and years pass before you know it, you see the beginning and the end of the story. Reading a review from the Blockbuster, the author states, I was crying throughout all of this film, and just to show how much he meant to the MCU and his fans. It's a perfect ending for a great character. I think that is a perfect way of saying it. Some people just can't help but shed a tear watching this unfold. Pathos is used once again. It is much more effective because we've known this character so much longer in other films and making their deaths more emotional. And that emotion helps connect to the audience to a whole other level compared to other films. The directors of the film, Anthony and Joe Russo, who are brothers, have directed Marvel films in the past, had a clear vision for Endgame and what to do with Stark. It is important to know what environments is used during the scene. The scenery is warlike with the sky dark and little to no visible sunlight. When you think of a bright sunny day, you think of positivity or happiness, and the opposite would be negativity or sadness. The buildings are destroyed and armies of both heroes and villains fighting each other, with everything is very chaotic. Naturally, you're going to feel uncomfortable with these conditions. Everything is at stake. The audience is inclined to feel stress and in suspense. To further elevate these emotions, music is a perfect tool to do so. Music is a very effective tool that can appeal to all type of emotions when properly used. It can be highly functional. The song used during the scene, "The One" by Alan Silveretti, his purpose is to increase the suspense and have the audience in awe of what's to come. What's more surprising is that the same song is used when Stark is carrying the nuke in the wormhole during Avengers 1. Both times he made the ultimate sacrifice. These little details are extremely important, and these elements are linked with pathos. Another song played, "The Real Hero," evokes suspense. This makes the theme more poignant, giving less of a sense of security and rooted strength, which parallels to the emotional trust of the scenes stated by Terry Cole. These combinations of melodies connect to the audience and make us feel more sorrow than other films we've seen before. With all this information at hand, we can conclude that Endgame has had a lasting impression on Marvel fans years after its release, with the anticipation of villains to the story being years in the making. All the cost of Iron Man sacrificing his life to save everyone. Combined with the outside resources provided, it's hard to deny Stark's influence. Death in cinema is an effective way to make an audience emotional, especially when we've seen Iron Man's story for so long. With the combined elements of scenery, music, and nostalgia, we can understand how these elements were used well together in getting a reaction out of the audience. The usage of pathos, ethos, and can further implement these feelings, specifically suspense, sadness, pride, and nostalgia. With future films to come, impacted by the death of Tony Stark will be a constant reminder, leaving a lasting influence not on just the franchise but the audience itself.